Okay, so when you hear the name Uttarakhand, what comes to mind? For most of us, it's these incredible mountains, holy rivers. I mean, it's literally called Day of Bhumi, the land of the gods. But something is changing there, something dangerous that's shifting the very reality of this beautiful place.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. How does the land of the gods suddenly become a disaster zone? What's going on? Why is a place known for its peace and serenity now facing almost constant danger?
To really get it, you have to understand that Uttarakhand is a land of paradox. On one hand, you have this incredibly peaceful, beautiful image, but on the other, you have this raw, volatile reality. And here's the thing, this isn't exactly new. The danger has always been there, baked right into the geology. The Himalayas, they're basically geological teenagers, young, active, still growing because of tectonic plates crashing into each other. That's what gives us those jaw-dropping peaks, but it's also what makes the whole area naturally unstable.
Okay, so you might be thinking, if it's always been dangerous, what's the big deal now? Well, that's the key. Something has changed, and it's the pattern of these disasters. It's not just that they're happening, it's how they're happening now. And frankly, it's pretty alarming.
So let's take a look back, right? Historically, you had these massive, terrible disasters for sure. But look at the timeline. You see these huge gaps, decades even, between the big ones. They were devastating, yes, but they were infrequent. That was the old normal. Okay, now brace yourself for this next number. In 2023, just 1 year, there were 1,100 landslide incidents. Let that sink in, 1,100 in a single year. That's not just a statistic. That completely shatters everything we just saw about the old pattern. In this chart, wow, it really puts it into perspective. Look at the average from 2018 to 2022. It was around 280, which is already a lot, right? But then look at 2023. It just skyrockets. We're talking about a nearly four-fold jump. This isn't just a bad year. This is a tipping point.
So what does this all mean? It means we need to change how we even talk about it. The state isn't just disaster-prone anymore, a place where a disaster could happen. No, it's become disaster-gripped. It's living in a constant state of crisis. The threat isn't a what-if anymore, it's a what's next.
So how on earth did it get this bad? Well, it's not just bad luck. What we're seeing is a classic vicious cycle, where a bunch of different problems are all making each other worse.
The technical term for this is a feedback loop. And it's pretty simple, really. Think of it like this. Factor A makes factor B worse. But then, the now worse factor B circles back and makes factor A even more intense. It's a dangerous spiral that just keeps getting faster and more destructive. And in Uttarakhand's case, this loop has three main ingredients. First, you start with that natural vulnerability. Then, you pour on an accelerant, climate change. And the final trigger, uncontrolled human activity. Let's dig into each of these.
So, let's start with the foundation. We already touched on this, but it's so important. The ground itself is unstable. The mountains are young, they're moving, and they're full of weak spots and fault lines. So the stage is already set for disaster before anything else even happens.
All right, now let's add the fuel to the fire, climate change. It's doing two big things here. First, it's making the rains way more intense. We're talking sudden, massive downpours. Second, it's melting the glaciers way too fast. This creates these huge, unstable lakes of meltwater just sitting there, held back by piles of loose rock. And when those natural dams give way, it's catastrophic.
And then comes the final push, the one that tips the scales. Us, human activity. We're building huge roads, dams, and railways, literally cutting into mountainsides that are already weak. We're chopping down forests that act like natural glue holding the soil in place. And we're building towns and cities in all the wrong places. It's like we're systematically poking a sleeping giant.
Okay, I know this sounds incredibly bleak, but it's not a lost cause. The key is, now that we understand how this cycle works, we can start to figure out how to break it. So let's talk about solutions.
And a real solution has to be more than just getting better at rescues after the fact. It needs to be a complete strategy, attacking the problem from three sides, using the best modern tech, putting smarter rules in place, and, this is really cool, looking back at traditional knowledge that's been around for centuries.
And check this out. This is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. On one side, you have this ancient building style called Koti Banal. It uses wood and stone that are interlocked, so when an earthquake hits, the whole building can flex and move with it.
That's why some of these structures are still standing after hundreds of years. Now look at modern concrete. It's stiff, brittle. When the ground shakes, it just cracks and collapses. The old way was actually genius.
So you take that old wisdom and you pair it with the best of modern tech. We're talking about high-tech sensors that can give us early warnings. It means making sure the official disaster management teams have what they need. And, maybe most importantly, it means training people in local communities to be the first line of defense. You build resilience from the ground up.
When you get right down to it, all of this requires a huge shift in how we think about development. There's a great line that sums it all up. Development must not become a cause of destruction. Instead, it has to be the very thing that makes the state safe and prosperous. It's a total flip in perspective.
Which leaves us with one final crucial question. It's the choice that Uttarakhand is facing right now, but honestly, it's a choice we're all facing. Is it going to be development or is it going to be destruction? Because the path they choose, well, that's going to decide the fate of the land of the gods.